Welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. And again, we're doing a couple of these long form podcasts today, but I'm in the seat by myself. We'll be doing more of this content. We get these questions all the time. We did one on testosterone. And today I'm going to talk about cholesterol. So when you think about cholesterol, we'll get into the weeds on some of this stuff, but take some notes. This is in my latest book, Rest, Eat, Move. We have lots of stuff on the website. We have a blog. And the name of the blog is Don't Be Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, and that's cholesterol. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But I want to start right from the beginning. There are two major subjects we are not taught in school. First is personal finance. So think about that for a minute. Why is it that almost 50% of the United States population has less than 10 grand in the bank at retirement? That's scary. And the second is our health. So we're not taught this stuff. And if you have ever heard me speak on stage or on a podcast, we talk a lot about medical illiteracy. And one example of medical literacy is getting a blood test. In fact, you might have heard this a week ago, but I had my blood test recently checked. But if your blood test comes back and some of your numbers fall out of the normal level, or normalcy, I should say, you may be walking out of your doctor's office with some type of medication to target that specific symptom. And that's really when I do consulting and speaking and we get phone calls, but really we have to understand that you are your greatest health advocate. You have to take more ownership in that asset, and that asset is your health. So again, our greatest asset we always talk about is our health. We have to take more ownership in that health. So that's the very beginning, and that's why I titled it Don't Be Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, because in most people, when you think about that, cholesterol is an issue that most people think they want to lower it. So our cholesterol conversation is part of these series of podcasts to improve our literacy around health. So that's why we keep coming out with testosterone. I'm going to have one on gut health coming up, but that's my goal, is to have you more information that you can have better decisions about your health and having really good conversations with your health care practitioners. All right, so I wrote this down. Here's a typical example of a phone call or email we receive at On Target Living on a regular basis. So here it is. I just came from a visit from my doctor, and my doctor says my cholesterol level is high and would like to put me on a cholesterol-lowering medication, and I'm confused on what I should do. I cannot tell you how many times I get this phone call. So without getting into the weeds so much, I always start with the questions. We talk about curiosity. So I'll say, let's first dive into some deeper questions to help you determine your risk. So if you're making notes mentally, writing them down, but you have to understand, what is your risk? So that's the big thing I try to educate everybody. You need to understand your risk. There are two important numbers when talking about a cholesterol profile. Just two. The first one is the cholesterol to HDL ratio. And the second is your triglyceride to HDL ratio. And those two numbers will help you understand if your cholesterol profile is in balance. That's the key. So the key is understanding that. So when you think about that, now you have a better determination of what your risk is. So if you don't know your risk, why are you put on a medication? All right, so here's the example. So if you want to write this down, here's the example we went through. So my question is, what is your total cholesterol? The answer is 230. If you didn't know anything else and your cholesterol is 230, most of you would be put on a statin medication to lower cholesterol. Here's question number 2. What is your HDL? That's 69. Number 3 is, what is your cholesterol to HDL ratio? This is so simple. My total cholesterol is 230 divided by my 69. That gives me a ratio of 3.33. Is that good or bad? For women, your cholesterol to HDL ratio should be 3.5 or less. And for men, it should be 4.5 or less. That is fantastic. You have really, again, this is a really good number here because you want your cholesterol level to be high and balanced. I'll talk about that in a minute. step one, you have no or little risk right there. Number 4 is, here comes the other question. What is your triglycerides? Those are 85. And triglycerides, we're not going to talk about that so much today, but triglycerides are going into like your dental. I went to see my dental hygienist on the beginning of the week. And I always go right up front if I'm not doing what I should do. And what I should do is I should be flossing more. And so I go in sometimes and I'll say I've been flossing or I haven't been flossing, because you can't lie to your dental hygienist about flossing. No different triglycerides. They're a mirror of what you're doing or not doing. You can't come in and say you're eating cleaner, you're not drinking alcohol or energy drinks or whatever if your triglycerides are much over 100. So in this example, what is your triglyceride level? It's 85. Good. Now we ask question number 5 is, what is your triglyceride to HDL ratio? So now we take the 85, which is triglycerides, divide that. Again, we talked about this a second ago. 69 is my HDL. That number comes out to 1.23. The goal is ideally under 2, and I like even better under 1.5. So again, another fantastic ratio. So if we go back, we look at your cholesterol to HDL ratio at 3.33, wonderful. And your triglyceride to HDL ratio at 1.23, wonderful. So if you're looking at all your numbers, they look fantastic. Okay, so now we got that little example out of the way. So let's keep going on this conversation and learn a little bit more about and understand your risk. So even today, I've been talking about this forever, but cholesterol is still a hot topic wherever you go. And why not? The cholesterol scare is still there. It's rampant for decades. The cholesterol scare has been rampant for decades. But there's so much misinformation about cholesterol. When we survey people, and again, we talk about this all the time. When I survey people, again, I had 3 clients yesterday, surveyed them. If I survey them in an audience, it doesn't matter. But if I survey people and ask them, if you ask them, have they had their cholesterol checked in the last year or two? 100%. Everybody's had your cholesterol checked. But then I ask them another question. How many of you had your homocysteine or highly sensitive CRP, C-reactive protein, checked? And rarely do people raise their hand and have both of those tests. So I got to ask the question, again, we talk about Ozempic, Trulicity, Skyrizi, they're on TV every night. Everybody knows about them. But for most people, when you talk about homocysteine, they've never heard of it before. Why? How could that possibly be possible? Or highly sensitive CRP. These are 2 blood tests that are powerful risk factors for predicting heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Short answer, why we don't know this, is there's no medications prescribed for these tests. And second, I really think this is a big one, there's lack of education by our health professionals. And again, as consumers, we don't know, our healthcare professionals don't really talk about it. And as a consumer, you know about Ozempic, you know about Trulicity, you know about Skyrizi because it's on TV every night. You never hear anything about this stuff. So this is a crazy statistic I'm going to share with you in just a second. The latest research has found that you live longer, I'll say that again, you live longer if your cholesterol levels are higher in balance. The key word is balance. How many of you have ever heard of that? I'm going to live longer if my cholesterol level is higher in balance? So I go get my blood test a couple weeks back. My total cholesterol is 237. I loved it. Testosterone's higher. Ratios are great. Again, I want that. Did you know, we just did a podcast on what we don't know. Did you know that 60% of all heart attacks occur with normal cholesterol levels? Yes, I said that. 60% of all heart attacks occur with normal cholesterol levels. So you got to be scratching your head going, wait a minute. What the heck is going on here? Over 25% of the adults in the United States are currently taking a statin med to lower cholesterol. 25%. Think about that. We have we have 300 plus million people in the United States, and 25% of that 300 million plus are on a statin med, which we're now spending over $60 billion globally, $60 billion. And here's the real kicker. Heart disease is not getting any better. So this, when we start thinking about, we have to create this curiosity at the very beginning is what is going on here? So you will live longer if your cholesterol levels are higher in balance. Yep, that's the answer. That's what I said. Most people, again, I can't say this enough. If I went, you're at a party, you're at some function, and you surveyed most people, they truly believe that having a high cholesterol is the most important risk factor for having a heart attack. They really believe or a stroke. And as I just stated, over 60% of all heart attacks occur with normal cholesterol levels. We like to say cholesterol is only 33% of the story, and without the other 67%, you cannot determine your risk. So cholesterol plays an amazing role in your health, your heart, but there are other factors besides having an unbalanced cholesterol that affects your risk. Most people still believe having a low cholesterol is good and having a high cholesterol is bad. What if it's the opposite? What if it's the opposite? So we're going to go a little deeper here and having a better understanding of cholesterol so you have a better conversation with your health professional and you can have greater ownership in that conversation. And I got to tell you, most healthcare practitioners, if you get in the game, they want to get in the game with you. If you're not in the game, you're not asking the right questions, there's no curiosity, it's tough for the medical practitioners with the amount of time they have to help you with some of these problems. So here's the start of this conversation. What does cholesterol do? I always open this up when we get into this conversation. So tell me, what does cholesterol do? I think, as again, people believe that discussion, they think it's something bad or they're proud that their cholesterol is low, believing that lower cholesterol is better. So we got to change this thinking right now. We got to change this thinking. Cholesterol is essential for life. Cholesterol is essential for optimal health. And here's the big one. Cholesterol makes every cell membrane in the human body. Every cell membrane, the outer rim of the cell, is made up of cholesterol. Cholesterol heals the body. It's a healing. It heals the body. Cholesterol makes our stress and steroidal hormones, our sex hormones. So that's why when you compromise some of these things, you start compromising some of your hormones, including, which we talked about last time, testosterone. Cholesterol transports vitamins and minerals, helps absorb vitamin D. Cholesterol is essential for memory, for brain health, strength, vitality, production of CoQ10, which is the most powerful antioxidant involved with energy production of every cell in the human body, and most famously for keeping the heart healthy. Remember that, coenzyme Q10, because coenzyme Q10 is blocked when we take a statin med. So when we take the statin med to lower cholesterol, that statin med blocks the pathway for the production of CoQ10. In fact, if you live in Canada, you are prescribed statin medications. You're also prescribed CoQ10 as a supplement. So again, it is a supplement. It's made naturally in the human body. But if you're on a statin med to lower cholesterol, by all means, you need to be taking a CoQ10 as a some type of supplement to help that. When taking a statin medication to lower cholesterol, the statin med blocks the pathway of that production of CoQ10, as I've mentioned. And as again, you have to take, if you're in Canada, you take that. So here's a little quick side story. This is many years ago, but during my daughter-in-law's first pregnancy, by mistake, her cholesterol was taken. Her total cholesterol came back extremely high, making a new life. But the doctor told her not to worry, that during pregnancy, cholesterol levels rise dramatically. Why is that? Because you're making a new life. And it's completely normal when making that new life. Cholesterol is amazing, and without it, we would not have life. So at the beginning of life, cholesterol just elevates through the roof, and at the end of life, cholesterol plummets. So now we ask the question, so we just talked about what cholesterol does, and again, hopefully you got my gist of this. It's incredible. We need it. Every cell membrane, hormones, transports vitamins and minerals, especially amazingly for brain health. But why is my cholesterol high, or most importantly, out of balance? So this is a big question to ask. If your cholesterol is too high or out of balance, having a balanced cholesterol level is what you should be striving for. Not a low one, not necessarily a high one, but higher in balance. That's really what we're after, is we want to have your cholesterol level higher in balance. Remember, it's the raw material that builds your sex hormones. keeps your cells energized and healthy, makes every cell membrane in the human body. So maybe stress levels are too high. Maybe your body has too much inflammation. Maybe you lack sleep, eat too many processed foods, drink too much coffee, soda pop, energy drinks, or alcohol. Your body may be talking back and trying to help. That's what cholesterol does. It heals the body. So when your body goes into healing mode, the liver begins producing more cholesterol for hormonal balance and repair. The body needs it. So the body's trying to fix itself, and it does this by producing more cholesterol. Some people may also have genetically predisposition to produce more cholesterol than the average person. But in most cases, the goal, again, is to create high cholesterol imbalance. That's the key, high cholesterol imbalance. And I always like to talk about this. Matt talks about this a lot too. Cholesterol is not a risk factor. Why your cholesterol is out of balance is the risk factor. That's just a different mindset about that. So here's another question we're going to come at you. Should I take a statin med to lower cholesterol? Simvastatin, Lipitor, you've all heard these before. So should you take a statin medication? So at the beginning of this, I'm going to make sure that I want everybody to understand I'm not your doctor. Crystal clear. I'm not your physician. I'm not your primary care doc. I'm not your health care practitioner right here. My intention is to power you to have greater knowledge and understanding so you can make more of an informed decision about your health along with working with your healthcare practitioner. That's the goal. So you have better knowledge, better conversations. So with that being said, hang on, because I'm going to give you my thoughts and beliefs about improving your cholesterol profile, lowering your risk of having a heart attack or stroke, and it's not with a statin medication. So what is a statin medications? As I mentioned earlier, statin medications have been on the market for over 35 years and one of the most powerful, most prescribed medications in the world to help lower cholesterol. Statins are big business. They're huge business. As I said, multi-billion-dollar business, and it continues to grow. It continues to grow with all the stuff we know about it. Continues to grow because, again, you got to ask the question, why is it continuing to grow? Because we have so much misinformation about it. They're drugs that have a very effective at reducing cholesterol. They lower cholesterol, there's no doubt about it. And they do their work in the liver by suppressing an enzyme called HMG-CoA. That's how they work. So when you block the enzyme HMG-CoA, you also block the production of CoQ10, as I mentioned earlier. It's a powerful antioxidant for the heart. A deficiency in CoQ10 will lead to multiple problems such as leg pain, muscle cramps, erectile dysfunction, depression, memory loss, type 2 diabetes, shortness of breath, fatigue, cardiac palpitations, liver enzyme abnormalities. And you're right. It sounds like these medications have a many effects, and I'm not even done yet. So as I said earlier, remember, the role of cholesterol and its importance for having a healthy hormones. Every one of us wants to have healthy hormones. I talk about testosterone in the last long-form podcast. Cholesterol is the raw material for all sex hormones. So think about cholesterol being at the top of the chain. You have your stress hormones, cortisol, aldosterone, epinephrine. That's on the stress side. And on the building or the sex side, steroidal hormones, you have DHEA, growth hormone, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen. All these amazing, incredible hormones are affected by this thing called cholesterol. So why would I want to lower my cholesterol? I don't. I want my cholesterol level higher in balance. And even mineral corticoids, glucocorticoids, they're all made from cholesterol. So cholesterol production is blocked. You're going to compromise these hormones. As I mentioned at the beginning, we receive copies of blood work from people wanting to learn more and have a better understanding about their blood work. They want to have more control of their health. They want to have better conversations with your doctors. And this is one area that I see on a regular basis. There's extremely low reading of total cholesterol followed by extremely low reading of testosterone. I mentioned that earlier. So again, this is what's out there. We must also ask the question, why is erectile dysfunction medication skyrocketing? And I think you have your answer now. We're taking too many statin meds. We're not sleeping. We have too much stress. The list goes on. Am I oversimplifying this? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But there's an epidemic. And what I've seen in my practice, that when people get their cholesterol levels higher in balance, testosterone improves, working on their sleeping and all the stuff that comes with it, erectile dysfunction starts to disappear. So another concern, which I briefly hit on, which I think we should be concerned greatly about. My mom died of this, and this is called brain problems. In on top of that, Alzheimer's. So another concern is the brain and nerve diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and MS. All these diseases are based on the breakdown of the myelin sheath. That's the protective coating surrounding every nerve in the human body. So again, it's a big deal. So now we're going to start affecting the brain with some of these effects of these statins. And as you can tell, I'm not a fan of statin medications due to their array of potential effects. If you want to improve your cholesterol profile, I believe there's a safer and much more effective path. So again, that's why we want to do this, talking more about it. Again, are people willing to make lifestyle changes? If they're not, then maybe the doctor's hands are tied. But if you're willing to make some of these changes, amazing transformation can happen. So here's another. So as we get closer to the end here, I want to ask another question here is, we need to understand our risk. I talked about at the very beginning today. We all must take more ownership in our personal health and become more educated in this space. In today's world of medicine, most doctors have less than 12 minutes per visit. 12 minutes. How do we expect our health professionals to fix broken sleep, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, or an imbalanced cholesterol profile in less than 12 minutes? And in such a short visit, the patient has to be engaged. They have to be willing to ask questions. They have to be willing to make some changes, drink more water, sleep better, eating better. The list goes on, moving the body. In the late 80s, I worked for a family practice physician. He's no longer alive, but this was a great human being. His name was Dr. Barry Saltman. And this guy was a gem out in Mason, Michigan. And Dr. Saltman was a loving human being. I love this guy, as I mentioned. He would see up to 40 to 45 patients a day. In fact, I would bring him smoothies to drink. He just didn't have any time during the day because he was seeing all these people. And most of the people he was seeing were so unhealthy, but he loved his patients and wanted the best for them. But due to the way the system was set up, it was extremely difficult to change some of his patients' unhealthy behaviors, and that's where I came in. So understanding your risk is critical for your future health. And here's a quick snapshot of what you need to know. And again, this is a blog we have, so again, you don't have to write all these down. But the first one, as I mentioned earlier, we need to know your cholesterol to HDL ratio. In that example, 230 total cholesterol, 69 HDL gave us a ratio of 3.33. That is a big number we need to know. Number two, we need to know the triglyceride HDL ratio. In our example, we used 85 for triglycerides. We used 69 for HDL. That ratio is 1.23. Fantastic. All right. So from here, you need to know your glucose. And glucose ideally should be under 95, and our A1C should be under 5.5. Then we move to number 4. As I mentioned earlier, this is your homocysteine. You need to get this checked. Homocysteine measures oxidation or rust. This is a big problem for heart disease, cancer, stroke. That number ideally should be under 13. If your people are doing too much protein, they have too much oxidation, that number will creep way up, and we want that number under 10. One of the greatest ways to improve that is eating greens, folate specifically. Number 5, highly sensitive C-reactive protein. That's an inflammation marker. Ideally, you want to see that under 1. So this is the stuff you need to understand to determine your risk. So next time you have an appointment with your health professional, I want you to take the Know Your Numbers handout. This is on our downloads, and you ask for all these tests, uric acid, homocysteine, all this stuff. We need to know all these tests. So again, just take it in. I want these tests. It might be some out-of-pocket costs, but that's the place we begin right there. I'm going to get all that stuff most of the time. That's all that's necessary. But there's a couple other tests I want you to be aware of. One is particle size. Just remember, the larger and the more fluffy your particle sizes are, your cholesterol particle sizes, the healthier you are. So again, once I got to know your numbers and you want to go into the weeds a little bit deeper, you can. Fibrinogen, that measures the stickiness of platelets, and that number should be between 200 and 400. That's normal. So again, these are other tests you can get besides getting your cholesterol and some of these other. Many people are reaching out to me about a calcium score. That measures how much calcium you have in your vessels, plaque buildup. Low risk is 0 to 99. Moderate risk is 100 to 400, and a high risk is 400 plus. It's just a test, everybody. Don't let it scare the crap out of you, because again, I get people all the time. It's one of the sequences along the way. As I wrap this up, here's what I want you to take away with. How do we make our cholesterol better? How do we get this cholesterol back into balance? Step number one. So now I'm going to give you the strategies on how to do this. You ask better questions, you get informed, and you understand your risk. You need to be more in ownership of this. Again, I don't need to know everything. I just need to be more curious, ask better questions. Number two, I need to get more rest. We talk a lot about rest and rejuvenation. It's critical for a balanced cholesterol profile and including your overall health. What's your breath work like? Are you doing your nasal breathing, belly breathing, slowing it down? Are you getting enough sleep? The pace and space of your life. Do you like the pace, and do you have enough space to handle the pace? Matt was talking about this in the podcast today, that he gets a massage every Monday morning at 9:30. That's a way to create a little bit more space in his highly paced life. Number three, am I drinking 50 ounces of water a day? Start with that. Again, half your body weight in ounces, but let's start with drinking enough water, 50 ounces a day. Are you taking that cod liver oil? We truly believe we have the best cod liver oil in the world. It's high, great for your brain health, helps your cholesterol profile, lowers inflammation, helps with vitamin D. The list goes on and on. So again, 1 to 2 tablespoons of the cod liver oil. It's incredible how this can affect your HDLs and improving your cholesterol imbalance. On top of that, I'm a huge fan of flax seeds. Flax seeds and chia seeds are another omega-3 fat coming from plants. You grind up the flax seeds. I try to recommend people to get 1 to 2 tablespoons 3, 4, 5 times a week. You put that cod liver oil and the flax seeds involved, you will see amazing transformation in your cholesterol profile. I've never had anybody not get off their cholesterol medication working with their doctor, and these are the two big steps I have them do: the cod liver oil and the flax. Then vitamin C is huge for helping the cholesterol profile. Berries, lemons, oranges, grapefruits, watermelon, pineapple, broccoli, kale, asparagus, sweet potatoes. These are all high in vitamin C. Not vitamin C supplement, we're talking about from the source. Then here comes our superfoods. Spirulina chlorella. I try to get most of my clients to take 20 to 30 a day. Frozen wheatgrass, 4 to 5 ice cubes a day. Pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts, high in selenium and zinc. Nothing better for gut health than apples. Oatmeal's great, bananas, beans. And again, we're using that food target to help you improve the quality of what you're eating. And last but not least, are you moving your body? One of the greatest ways to help keep your profile, keep your cholesterol profile, keep you healthy is moving your body on a consistent basis. So as I wrap this up, the last thing I want to talk about, if you're on a statin medication, again, this is all prevention. We're prevention people. But if you are on a statin med to lower cholesterol, what do I do? What do we do? This is what I coach my clients all the time on. Step number one, you don't change a thing. You continue taking your medication. You don't change nothing. We don't want to jump off that at all. I want to make that crystal clear. Step number two, get your new habits in place. It doesn't make any sense that you go to your healthcare practitioner talking about getting off your cholesterol med when you haven't developed these new habits. Get them in place, get them locked in. Now you have conviction. I'm going to go in. I want to do this. I want to get off my statin med. I don't want to see that future. Step number 3, you make an appointment with your doctor and start talking about this. You know your numbers. And again, you start doing this. You can also, there's lots of home blood tests you can do online. So again, you can just go to at-home lab tests and you can get this sent to you. So if you're having challenge wherever you are getting a blood test, there's lots of vendors out there that are now doing this, and they're doing it very well. And again, there's saliva tests, blood tests. So you need to get that appointment. You need to get that blood test. And after you got that baseline, then you retest in 4 to 6 months. So if you don't like your cholesterol profile, your homocysteine's not where it should be, you're highly sensitive to CRP, get that. Get your plan in place, start working on that, and then you make another appointment and say, okay, here I am. And then from there, we start weaning off. If you're on 40 milligrams of a statin med, you talk to your doctor about, I'm going to 20. I'm going from 20 to 10. And that's how I've gotten people off their statin meds, and never had anybody not get off their statin meds in my entire career working with their healthcare practitioner by taking these regular steps. So again, cholesterol is a big deal. Taking a statin med is not your answer. You're the answer. Remember, we always talk about you have the power to feel your best, but we need to be more in the game. If you have any questions, reach out to us on tourliving.com. We're here to help you. And remember, again, cholesterol is a good thing. It's an amazing thing. And here's to a healthy and balanced cholesterol profile the rest of your life. We'll see you next time.